But good afternoon, good morning, good evening to those of you in Europe. Thank you so much for joining today. For those of you who don't know me already, I'm Sky Landgraf. I'm the Director of Partnerships and Programs for We Are Moving the Needle. And on behalf of our team, I'm just super excited to welcome you all to our Fix the Mix Career Workshop series. As you all know, community sits at the heart of what we do here at We Are Moving the Needle. And oh, I see we have a special guest actually. I'm going to pause myself because our founder, Emily Lazar, is on the call.
Hello.
There you are.
Hi.
How are you? Just wanted to
Good.
pop
How are you?
and tell you all how incredibly, ridiculously lucky you are that you're going to get to spend some time with my dear friend Suzy Shin, who is just a amazing talent and amazing human. So I hope you guys enjoy the session. And I just wanted to say hi in the midst of my crazy day and hope everybody's doing well. And I'm going to turn off my camera and quiet myself and let the festivities begin.
Awesome. Thank you, Emily. Um, all right. As you all know, community sits at the heart of all that we do here at We're Moving the Needle, and these workshops are designed to connect all of our students, our early career professionals, with leaders like Suzy from across the industry. And this is an opportunity for mentorship, career development, because this is really an opportunity for us to remind you that you're not on this journey alone. These sessions are also designed to provide some tangible grounding to practical questions you're facing. So today we'll be discussing everything from how Suzy got her start in the industry, building strong relationships, practical advice and tips in the studio, and more. So thank you to all of you who submitted some questions as part of the registration process. I'm going to be moderating today's discussion. We're going to try to work through as many of those as we can. And as I mentioned, we're going to have some time for a little live Q&A as well at the end. So please feel free to make ample use of the chat, pop your questions in there, and we'll be rolling through with that as well. So without further ado, I'm super excited to welcome the fabulous Suzy today. Suzy is based in Los Angeles usually, and she's a Grammy-nominated record producer, songwriter, and engineer. She's worked with an incredible array of artists, including Panic at the Disco, Weezer, Fall Out Boy, so many more. She's also worked in film on multiple projects, including SpongeBob, Sponge on the Run, Bill and Ted Face the Music, Zootopia, among others. And she is an esteemed member of We Are Moving the Needle's soundboard and a fabulous mentor in our community as well. So good morning and welcome to Suzy. Yay. So as we get started, do you want to share where you're calling in from today since you're not at home?
Yeah, I'm in Portland, Oregon today working for the week.
Amazing. So to kick us off, I'd like to start a little bit at the beginning. Where's your origin story here? How'd you get your start? When did you know that you wanted to be a producer and work behind the board?
Great question. So I'm from Wichita, Kansas, small, average Midwest town, born and raised. For some reason, music always called to me. My mom kind of enrolled me in voice lessons when I was like 2 or 3, something like that, and I was obsessed with it. Um, then she forced me to start playing guitar, and I hated it, whatever. I discovered like Blink 182, the Beach Boys, LOL, John Mayer, and became obsessed with learning those songs. And one day my friend wrote a poem, and I took her poem and I put music to it, and I wrote a song. And I had myspace.com then, which is where I would funnel all my music through. And it was like, it really gave me a lot of steam and made music there. Mom got me a little MacBook with GarageBand, and that kind of opened up a world. I didn't know what I was doing. I just thought I was putting my songs and covers on MySpace. I didn't know what a producer was. I didn't know what an interface was. I didn't know there was another microphone other than the microphone I got from Guitar Center. And that led to going to college. I went to Berkeley School of Music for a little bit because I knew John Mayer went there, and I knew Quincy Jones and blah blah blah. And I wasn't allowed to do anything else. I had to go to college. That was what, our parents have instilled upon us, is you go to college to do whatever you wanted to do. So I thought you had to go to college to be a rock star. And I discovered production there, and engineering, and that world there of the art of making a record. I got into that major, and also I got into that major because at the end of the day, all the boys were doing it, and they told me how hard it was and how I couldn't get in. And this guy I had a crush on was in it, and he was making cool music, and I was like, I want to do that. And then I was also watching all these singer-songwriter girls, very much what I was, have to rely on studio time and have to rely on some dude to record their songs, and that there was a kind of culmination of things that led to like, I want to do this, I want to apply, and then I really fell in love with it, and didn't see it so much as technical as like, hey, this is how I can create music. So that went to LA for a summer internship. That was 12 years ago, and I was poor and broke, and I dropped out of college, and I just stayed in LA. Now I'm here. No, long story short.
I love that. Obviously, I think community really is really important to building your career in music. You already mentioned some of the like peer network that you had at Berkeley, sort of how seeing other, peers of yours, how they were relating to their career and experience and their art was influential for you, and then also how that, helps build opportunities going up the ladder. So I'm curious, like how you successfully have built your network over the years, and what you see as being really key to building strong relationships in the industry.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think uh your friendship circles are going to change. Like if you're friends at this Berkeley thing, it might they everyone might move to LA or whatnot, but maybe not. But maybe in 10 years after college, your friend might work at Isotope and you're crossing paths. I think like my big thing is like being a good person and not being a shithead or a dickhead or too good or too cool. Everyone that comes up, which everyone will, they'll come down, and someone else will be coming up. And if you've been a good person, and if you've been cool, and if you haven't been hot shit to other people along that path, um, that's gonna get you so far, because like you might be having a moment now, and in 3 years everything might stop, and you're the producer no one wants to call. There's some new producer in, and like if they it all, what comes up must go down. So that really, I think, has been a huge key factor in relationships, is being sincere and authentic, is remembering, oh, this drummer that you worked with that said their mom was getting surgery and blah blah blah, and if you saw them like 6 months later or whatever, you'd be like, how's your mom doing? Wow, if you could like take that little, like, that very personal thing and ask someone actually about their life and care about that person, like to be cared about, and thoughtful is huge. And that's going to make it be like, so when you text that person, hey, are you free? Can you come over and drum tomorrow? They're going to be like, oh, yeah, for sure. Um, I think that, and it's not so much like networky, like let me get your digits, let's collab. Like that's very rarely what has ever led me to a work or a job. It's been more of like, want to hang? What are you doing? Like, want to get dinner? Like this very, very casual, uh, kind of friendship, or I don't know. I don't know. It's less of more networking is less of networking. And it's also
Mhm.
saying yes. Hey, want to go to this thing? Yeah. Hey, want to come to this session at 11 p.m. right now, early on in your career? Yeah. Um, you just gotta say yes. You don't know where the opportunity lies.
That makes sense. And being, yeah, I love what you're saying, being your authentic self and staying open and just like remembering that at the end of the day, it's not necessarily about pushing on the networking, but letting things build organically and knowing that with time, it also all comes, starts to gel together.
Yeah, yeah,
I love that.
absolutely.
Did you have a mentor when you first moved to LA?
Um, did I have a mentor when I first moved to LA? I had a studio with a guy who I was interning at, that I wouldn't recommend, that I think he absolutely taught me some technical aspects, and it was a good uh grounding place to fuck up a lot, which is like something that needs to happen. Like you were engineering a session and you completely distorted the vocal and the songwriter's pissed and they have to come back and re-record it. Like that was cool to do that there. Um, but I think like, about 5 years into my LA run, I was introduced to this guy, Jake Sinclair, at a Halloween party. And he was Butch Walker's engineer. And Butch was his mentor, and he had just had a big hit song called She Looks So Perfect by Five Sauce. And he was looking for his next person. And I met him at a Halloween party, and I was like DJing the Halloween party, DJing my phone. And he really liked that I played this one song. And I went into his mind, and then he was like the next day, he's like, "Hey, want to go come to my studio?" Took me out on his motorcycle. We got lunch. I was like, "Whoa, this is amazing." And then like he was like, "I'm looking for someone to help with all this records." And then I didn't hear from him for 5 months, but I didn't push it actually at all. And then he broke his arm on that motorcycle. And then that started a 4 year relationship of like, I engineered Panic and Weezer, and that's how I met Weezer, and, a lot of great albums by that chance.
That's really lovely. So kind of being in the right place at the right time in a way, as well.
Yeah.
And
Got to make like your luck happen. Um, without being, and this is like something I see is like people are really, really eager when they're young in LA to like seize the moment, and like absolutely you should have a hustle, but like pros and veterans and these old school guys and like, the people that I see at the top, like there's a fine line between being really lazy and you don't want to be here, like even with the interns that sometimes I get, to like being so eager where you're like, yo, chill, chill, chill. Like that social line of being able to hang in the room is delicate and taken note of by every person in the industry.
mm. As you've continued to grow, I mean, obviously you mentioned Jake, who is influential for you early in your career. Do you have any mentors or folks you kind of look up to now, or folks you call when you're like, I'm in a pickle and I just need to talk something through, like, and how have you built those relationships?
Absolutely. I have so many mentors. I always want to keep learning. Evan Toppenfeld is my manager. If I'm in a pickle, like always, I will call him because a lot of the time it's me like being like, and he's like, it's all good. And like, we'll do this. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. Jonathan Daniel, like who started Crush Music. He gives phenomenal advice on the music aspect. I have my friend like Andrew Baluki, who on a technical, when I'm like stumped and I'm like cannot fucking figure out the wire. I hate wiring and cabling and getting in the back of a patch bay. Like that's the last thing I ever want to do. So but I do it, and so I'll call Andrew. Music editing, technical stuff. When I'm stuck here I'm working on a movie on the Freakier Friday film right now. I'll call Ben Zales, the music editor, being like, "Can I do this?" or would you? I think like I'm a huge resource person, and knowing who to call and not being afraid to call and not being afraid to ask for help. Um, And I would say all those are my mentors. Like I want to learn from everyone. I'm watching Jeff Ellis's Mixer Brain course. I'm always watching Jack Antonoff or, Rostam posts on Mix with the Masters. Like I'm like watching that. Like uh anytime I'm with what's up, Christian? Anyone I want to learn and see them as my mentor. That is it.
I love the way that you've also highlighted, not just other producers, engineers, or songwriters, but like managers, other folks across the industry that have been resources for you. Because I think that's really critical, is it can be really easy to feel like there's a lot of silos, but you can break across those barriers and you can build relationships and you should build relationships across those different areas of the industry. And so I love the way you highlighted that. How did you go about getting your manager, and when did you know it was the right time to kind of embark on that phase of your career?
Ooh, I went about my manager was my publisher who originally came into that studio I was interning as a producer producing a J-pop band. And then he 6 months later was an A&R at Songs Publishing, Mighty Seven Songs. And he had remembered me. And when he was like, who am I first going to sign? Who are my first signings going to be? I was someone that came to his mind. And then he kind of left the publishing side and went to Crush was a partner in it of that publishing company. And he was an A&R and manager over at Crush, um, helping out for free. Just like, hey, we have huge clients, Fall Out Boy and Sia, like we'll just help you out for right now. And then, when he officially became my manager, it was like so past the point of like it was like, yeah, it was like when you're in a relationship with someone and then you're like, should we be boyfriend and girlfriend? And you're like, yeah, we've been that for like years now, so it kind of felt like that. It was very natural. And there's something on the business aspect, the managers are different, and like something I love about Crush and Evan is like I've never signed a contract. I think management contracts are terrifying. I've known several people who've been sued by them, and have lost bands and relationships and livelihoods. And I fully stand by, a manager who's like, yeah, on a handshake, I'm going to be your manager and I'm going to work for you and you're going to become successful and that's going to make me more successful and then we're all going to win. And if you don't want to be here, you don't got to be here.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. So that's kind of how I came across my manager.
Yeah. You've mentioned a couple of things around like, like don't feel afraid to reach out or pick up like pick up the phone or, ways in which you've kind of leaned on your gut, those handshake moments, not locking yourself into things, but also knowing when to find the balance and trusting your relationships in the industry. And I'm wondering, like, for you, what does how have you like cultivated that strength in yourself to listen to your gut and know when to take a risk in a smart way?
Yeah, I feel like the risks don't ever feel like huge risks. Like even when I moved to LA and didn't go to college, it wasn't a big decision. It was like, well, I don't have 50K. I'm actually negative K. I can't even go fly and get my shit from my apartment. Like, it was just like, okay, well, this is a natural thing to do. When you meet people or do this, work on this project, it feels very natural. And like even on the people and asking for help, like I keep a notes in my phone of people I love to work with, people I want to work with more, people I really enjoyed working with in 2024. This person is really good at drum programming. Well, this person is amazing at Logic. And not even just one, like a handful of people that a photographer I need for press photos, well, I like can think of these three people that I would call off the top of my head, and I kind of keep this ongoing list. Or if I'm like, you know what, we haven't really gotten along, or I feel like we keep working on stuff and it's not really leading to anything. And I put that in a list of like, hey, people I really did enjoy working with, but like it's not, maybe we're not the best pairing. I'm a crazy person with lists. Like that's a list I have in my phone. Um, but yeah, and then you know, anything that I've had like butterflies on or anxiety about of taking the risk is usually a really good thing of like, hey, do you want to do this album? Do you want to work on this movie? And that's a really exciting uh
Mm.
feeling to have.
The butterflies have actually been like a sign to take that leap in a way.
You get
Yeah.
asked and you're like, am I gonna fuck this up? Am I ready for this? And like I think that, you know, that's part of it is like you just gotta say yes and figure it out and use your resources if you get, I don't know, whatever,
When you find
stuck.
yourself in a jam. Yeah. Um, we've noticed, the lines between some of the traditional roles in the industry are kind of increasingly blurring. You yourself are an amazing multifaceted creator. You're a producer, you're a songwriter. And more we're seeing, different artists come behind the board and work as producers. These lines and barriers are breaking down. I'm curious if this has shifted for you, like your approach to building your career? Have you ever felt under pressure to try to define yourself in one particular role or bucket, or how have you kind of been able to embrace the fluidity of the moment?
Absolutely. I think that that's a great thing and something I deal with. Like you know, I was a songwriter first and like in my opinion, an artist first. And I um came up via engineering. I was getting paid well to engineer to learn how to be a better producer, to learn how to do this. Um, and then I really struggled with getting constantly called an engineer because that was never, never, never in my path. Like I don't want to be the engineer. I don't want to be the engineer, in my opinion, is a very like thankless job, which I don't know, in the room, you get all the heat as an engineer. If anything fucks up, it's your fault. If it sounds great, it's the producer making it sound great. You know, like there's a, you know, um, so even so, you know, I really struggle with that, trying to earn that producer title more so. And it's like, yeah, I engineer everything I produce, like absolutely. But you know, the term producer has shifted in so many ways. There's so many interpretations of that, from a beat maker to a Rick Rubin who's more executive producing, to someone who's very hands-on, to someone who's playing every instrument, to someone who plays no instruments. Like um but I think just rolling with it, like even in the music aspect, I don't like being categorized or pigeonholed, but it's just what people are going to do. They have to label you, and you just have to be like, okay, and then show them that you can do this other thing.
Yeah. I'm curious how that, I mean, you've also built some amazing, like, long-term relationships with some wonderful artists, like your relationship with Weezer over the years. And I'm wondering, like, how, this kind of sense of labeling and desire for fluidity has sort of impacted your, like, how the artist relationship piece has either helped define or help you like grow, like your strong relationships with these artists has been critical to helping you build on those building blocks, or how you've maybe had to kind of navigate that in those conversations with these long-term relationships you've had, what that sort of looked like for you.
Um, I think like the labeling doesn't really come into play in the room. If someone is like, oh yeah, can you, I don't even think they'd be like, can you engineer this? They'd be like, hey, can you record this? And you're just like, sure. Like if I was like, you mean, can I produce this? You know, like that would, I would never ever say that. You know, at the terms of like a credit is a credit, like I don't really, a credit is cool. You know, there's something to be said about women. There's a study, oh, if I could think of the book, there's a study that it's like, and a scientific study on a piece of paper, if there's two men of equal status on that wrote the research paper, they will both get credit. If there's one that's a much more famous name, high esteemed, highly educated, and one of an up and coming, no one knows who this is, the high esteemed person, the highly educated, more famous person will get the credit. No one will give the credit to the up and comer. But then it was like, don't quote me on this. I need to like double check this. And it was like 100% of the time, if it was a man and a woman credited on a research paper, no matter if she was much more educated, more famous than him, the credit was always subconsciously given to the man. So there's something to be said for that. At the end of the day, it's a credit. I don't die on a hill for a credit. Like I know what I did and people will know what I did, but um I'll let my manager have that conversation on the credit, and I'll ask for whatever credit I want. Usually it's not a big deal. If I give out assistant engineer credit to the intern who just sat in the studio and passed me a microphone, what bad does that do? That is just good for them and it doesn't hurt me. Like it's like everyone can win. But I would not have any of those credits conversations myself, and I would rely on someone else to have that conversation for me.
I'm curious, this is actually a question that's come up in previous sessions for folks who don't have managers yet and are in earlier stages of their careers and working with their peers, for example. I wonder if you have a story or thought from, other, when you were starting out, how you navigated that conversation when you didn't have the benefit of having a manager to be able to lean on
Sure.
for that.
I think I would ask for the credit. If I was going into a project early on in my career, maybe I would ask beforehand, be like, hey, like, would you want to produce this together? Would you want to, maybe we could both, maybe, or whatever. I think it's more particular with a producer credit, or a mixer credit rather than an engineer credit, or an assistant engineer credit. Publishing, maybe if you're feeling it, it could be a convo before or after. I'm very much for and would encourage everyone equal splits. I've heard horror stories about, a Berkeley student who wrote a song with someone, and then this other person came in to help write a bridge, and they helped finish a song, and the song had been sitting for 2 years unfinished, but this person came in and all they did was write a bridge, but the song got done. And then they're trying to give them 1% publishing, and I'm like, for who? The 2,000 people going to listen to this? Like, this isn't Beyonce right now. Just like, give them 15%, give them whatever, just like treat people how you want to be treated. Treat people how you want to be treated. Really, publishing, production wise, early on in the career, just give everyone the credit. It hurts no one and it helps everyone.
That's lovely. Yeah. Um, Transitioning to studio combos, since you are in the studio right now, I'd feel remiss if we didn't dive into that a little bit.
Sure.
What's your vibe that you try to create while you're working in the studio with your artists, and how do you approach kind of creating that creative space both with your artists and kind of for your artist teams too?
Yeah, I tried to create a very comfortable, very comfortable, very like I will hold your secrets, very like you can be yourself, be vulnerable, do what you want to do environment. I can thrive in chaos. So that's what I create. At the same time, I love my lists. So I'll have a list of what I want to get done for the week, a list of what I want to get done for the day. Um, and however which way we get to that list is cool. Uh, don't care if that's done in an hour or if that's done in 12 hours from now. And if the artist I can tell really wants to like hang out or not get stuff done or whatever, like I'll follow that while just still trying to guide it into like how can I how can I get us back to recording. Um there's producers that are can get really mean or can get really manipulative or whatnot. Or we'll just be like, well, I'm gonna play everything. They don't what but in 2025, a lot of the artists are coming, they want to be the producer and the engineer kind of too. They want to play their instruments. They don't want one person to play everything. So just having the patience, I think, is huge. And you're almost like their therapist in a way, and you're almost like a magician in a way, and you're almost like the engineer and the producer and the friend and um the mom and the therapist and the what you're playing a lot of, and the buddy and the whatnot, and then the enemy when you're like, let's go get this done, or you're doing it wrong, which you don't ever say, hey, you're doing it wrong, and be like, hey, what if we do, how about, what if you tried it like that? I'm very careful with what words I'm saying depending on the artist. Every artist is different. You got to read the artist.
Mm. You say that you like thrive well, or you maybe not thrive, but you can handle the chaos as it
Yeah.
were. How do you, and you've mentioned like your notes app and your addiction to your lists, which I love. I also have many a notes app uh,
Yeah.
file going. But how do you, what are some other like tips or tricks or ways that you help manage your sanity and your workflows, knowing that you also are wearing all of those different hats at any given time of, from best friend to bad cop, we need to get back to work now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess again, before I'm going into the project, if I kind of have an idea of what it is, I'll make like, okay, I want to get through these 5 songs in this 5 days conservatively. I want to do guitar and lead vocals on this. This song needs a lot of work, whatever. But like if we can get through these 5, and then I'll take it day by day. Like today, I want to do like lead vocals on this one song. I want to look at the song from last night that we closed at like 10 p.m. and I don't know where it's at. And then I want to start doing guitar for another song. In theory, I don't know if that will happen, but like that's kind of my goal. And I don't know, it's life. It doesn't go totally according to plan. And then being like, okay, well, I'm not going to comp and tune a vocal or whatever I do here. Like that's in LA. Like what's our priority time here in Portland together? What can I do on my own later? Like, what's the best use of time? Uh, I think is what I take into consideration too. And uh, yeah, just, I don't know. I just try to stay organized. And I don't share these lists with anyone, by the way. This is a me list. If I were to share that
Yeah.
list with the artists, they would probably get really overwhelmed or whatever. Some artists, yeah, like when I work with Weezer, like Rivers loves a list. He loves checking off the daily boxes. But that's not always the case.
So meeting every person where they're at and every artist where they're at, and that
Yeah,
makes
and
sense.
every band, like also with bands or with composers or whatnot, it's all very different politics, different personalities, different this, like, sometimes I'll work with a band who it's like very much like a one person leader, and like I have all the other 5 members hitting up, being like, hey, can we have this? Can we do this? And I'm like, I know I can't. If I were to send the bounce, or if I were to send, that would very much upset this. So it's like, how can you kindly be like, hey, I can't share that yet? Or be like, I'm still working on it. Sorry, I don't have it ready. Like, how can you uh work magic to work with personalities.
Mm. I'm gonna put a reminder out there for folks to start putting your questions in the chat as you have them. We'll be leading into some Q&A time soon, so please go ahead and start popping things in there. While folks are doing that, I'm wondering, the magic making moments. Have there been? Can you share a story of maybe a time that the chaos, like everything totally broke down. The best laid plans in the studio, like they didn't plan, and or everyone hit a wall and you kind of had to in your role as producer, like step in and help solve problems and kind of like reinvigorate the room or reinvigorate the moment, and how you kind of approached that, what you did.
Yeah, I think the chaos happens a lot where it's like, everyone's hit a wall or whatnot. I'm trying to even like on Freakier Friday, the first vocal session I had with Lindsay as I was like putting the music together. Um, we didn't get a lot of time, and there was like 15 people at the studio. Like so much energy. And at that day, like I got what I could, but then like her and I got together 2 weeks ago, and it was just me and her and this vocal coach I chose who I love, and we nailed it. And it was like that is where it's like, okay, I called it for that day. I got what I could. I moved forward with what I could, and then I got to go back in knowing exactly what I needed. Another moment was like on that movie, we were there was like you have a full length of a song, and then you have a shortened version of this like big scene where lots of moving parts are happening, and we're about to like film that scene, and like the music needs to change. And I was like acting in it too, and I'm like in full glam on stage with my laptop open, like making new arrangements of a song like 20 minutes before we start shooting to the final, like my hit. That's when I was like locked in, hands shaking. I have like a choreographer next to me being like, we need the bounce now, like what is it, and then like I did it, and whatever bounced on like every like the editor and like the directors, everyone's just like jaw like, how did you do that at 7 a.m.? Like that was like a really rewarding moment, and we shot the scene, and it was great, and the cut was great, and we did it. um and even like on this project now, like when do we call it for the night? When are we like, I know when. I don't think we're gonna get anything more tonight. We call it, everyone goes home, and then we have like a fresh start.
Yeah,
And
when does everyone need to hit the reset button?
when are you like, okay, we're tired, like I know we want to get this done, but it's not gonna happen. We'll try again.
I'm going to start turning to some questions in the chat. From Angie, this is a great question. Have you ever felt stuck in your career, and what's your advice for someone who might be feeling stuck?
Yeah, I mean, I feel stuck all the time. And it ebbs and flows, right? You go up and you go down. I think, obviously like pushing through it, like you're alive, you're living one day at a time, one step at a time, you're gonna get it will pass. I'm a huge advocate for like getting out in the world, going on a road trip, going to the forest, going to the place, going to the ocean for 3 or 4 days, and like being like, oh my God, here's the world. Here is the life. Here, you're
Touch
removed from
grass.
LA, the little touch grass, move from LA, from like all the bullshit of all the fucking industry and like the whole fucking scene where like everyone is like so caring about all this, and just like go to the ocean and see this small town living peacefully. Like that, I think really grounds me. Um, and if in a career wise, if you're stuck, make a list. What's not working and what can I change? And just instead of being like, this isn't working, that's okay, well, what can you change? What's another perspective? What's a solution? If this isn't working, what can you go do to move in a direction?
Mm,
Finding a couple of solutions and trying those.
I
Knowing
love that.
when is if you're really stuck, what else? What make a list.
I love that. We have a studio question from Ruby. How have you balanced or decided about whether to build your own space or work out of other studios? I know you have a space in Silver Lake that is
Yeah,
yours.
I have a space in Silver Lake. I am a big supporter of having your own space because a lot of this, music making is money, 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 money pit. And if you have to go, you're going to lose a lot of gigs if you have to go work out of another studio every time someone wants to work with you, and that they're going to have to pay, or you're going to have to split a cost, or you're going to have to pay $500 a day, $300 a day. Well, you need a whole week. Well, you've just spent $3,000. You could have bought some gear and had your own space. Um, so I support that absolutely. Uh, Now, if someone wants to go work at East West or whatever, like obviously that's a whole other level, but like I think you can get some great sounds with what you have in a house, in a living room, in a commercial space, in a whatever. It doesn't need to be a big soundproof fancy studio. In fact, I don't ever really often want to go to those. I'd rather record in a living room.
I love that. Yeah. This is in a similar but slightly adjacent vein. This was actually a question submitted in advance of today's session from one of our participants who's at a point where they were kind of at a turning point, and there's two paths about how to make it, quote unquote. Working as an assistant to someone who might be higher profile, which has that sense of stability, but running the risk of putting your own projects to the side, or working with, pushing the freelance angle for yourself, working perhaps with more peers at your own level at the beginning, but there's a little bit less stability as that grows and as your peers and you all are all coming up together. You obviously you worked with Jake for a while. You are now, out on your own. How did you know when to like make that transition for yourself or roll that balance?
Yeah, great question. I think like early on, especially early on, instead of being like, okay, I'm freelance, like find your mentor, like find, because they're going to teach you so much. They have all those connections. They are going to bring in Beyonce, SZA, whoever, and then you're going to work with that, and then you're going to get that credit. Even if it's not on the album, you engineered SZA, like, and that's going to build a discography for you, rather than like, hey, well, I worked with Ali Smith or I worked with George Benson, like, like it's like, okay, cool, because when you're trying to get more work, they're going to want to see familiar names. So I'm big on finding someone to work under. The fact that I think you said part of it was like, oh, but you won't have any time to work on your own stuff, like that is up to you. You can be really tired. When after Jake would go home at 7 p.m., I would bring in my session at 7 or 8 p.m. and I would work till 1 a.m., 2 a.m., midnight, 11, whatever it is, and I'd be back at the studio at 10 or 11 a.m. the next day. Um, if you want to find the time, you will. And a lot of the times with those mentors, I have it with my intern. If I'm not in the studio, go use my studio. Go bring your artist over. Then boom, you get a studio to use, and you don't have to like work out of next to your bed or go rent a place. And then as for when I parted ways with Jake, it was very natural. Like I was offered to produce a Weezer album, and it was kind of like, well, if you're producing a Weezer album, I don't think you're going to be able to engineer the beaches or whatever. Like I feel like you should probably go do that. Um, I was never, and with Jake, it was interesting. I was never his employee. I was never on a salary thing, so it never like was. It was always like the bands who hired me via the label would pay me as an engineer. So I was, was still in my own sense independent in that way. I was never on salary and then being like, well, I'm working on this and this and this. It's like, no, I'm there. I'm going to do everything that we're doing for this record, and then I'm also doing this on the, I was still like my own boss. I don't know, company in a way.
And you had that flexibility. Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Um, For you, when you are hiring for assistants that you work with or interns, what do you look for? Do you have any advice for folks who are reaching out to you or others of your peers who are in the market for assistant roles about how they can like successfully land those?
Yeah, I think reaching out to if you want to try to reach out to me or to the producer or whatever, like that's one thing. Um, a lot of the time, as I've been explaining, my life can be like chaos, and like I wake up to like 30 emails and 40 texts and like phone call, and then like trying to live life on top of that. So like when I'll get like, hey, I want an intern email or like a 5 paragraph email about I'm going to, I'll be like, it goes to the bottom of like the list because it's like, okay, I'm fully functional facilitating now. And I think it's for every producer. I'm never like, yes, I need that intern. So a lot of the time reaching out to a manager is good. I was telling my one intern Charlie now, like and I made this mistake. I was trying to intern for Greg Wells 12 years ago, and I was being maybe what one would call a try guy, but I was like, he emailed me back once and I was like, I will leave Boston right now. Can I intern for you, please? I'm gonna move to LA. That scares people. Do not be like, I will drop everything right now and move across the country to a new city because I don't want to be responsible if that doesn't work out. And you are making me your sole purpose. I am not your leader. I'm not your God, whatever. Like my one friend got an internship for a huge producer when I was asking about their start. And he was like, I was living in Australia, but I didn't want to freak him out. So he said, sure, like when can you come by? And he was like, whenever. And he was like, cool, how's Friday? And he like booked a ticket and came, flew out. But he's like, I knew if I said, well, I'm in Australia, so I need a couple weeks, and it was gonna freak him out. I think too, like not writing paragraphs and paragraphs, not being like super, super like eager, if that, I don't know what the word I'm looking for. Um, and like when someone is applying with me and I meet with them, like I know you don't want to be an intern and I know you don't want to be an assistant. I know but I don't know. It's a fine line, and I think like uh yeah, there's do's and don'ts, I think, of being assistants and interns. But that's a whole can of worms. But I think just emailing, if you don't hear back from the producer, find out their management and reach out to the manager because the manager has to do something with that info.
Yeah, yeah. As we get close to wrapping up, I love to ask this question as one of our last questions, which is, what is the best advice you've ever received in your career? Or worst advice if you've never received the best advice.
So we receive so many advice. I think like really like one that I think about is like um even as we talked about today, being good to all, being kind to all, responding to the people, to the emails and the texts, not being too good or too cool, and because you go up, you go down. Everyone will have multiple peaks in their life. Look at literally everyone, everyone. Um, everyone has, yeah. I think that is one, and I don't know. The worst piece of advice? Uh, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I have any worst piece of advice.
Well, we'll close out then with what's your current favorite gear right now?
Current favorite gear is hmm, uh I just got the tube replaced in my Wonder CM7. I got like a vintage, like a Telefunken EF14 tube in it. and I really like how that sounds. Um, I really love my J45 acoustic guitar. And I'm trying to think, I feel like there was like a fun gear thing. Uh, I just recently used like the Fatso rack. I really liked that with my like Lindrum, and I love that sound was cool. I don't know. I try not to like obsess on gear because it's about the music. So like gear works, it's sick. That's awesome. I love it. But I think it can be a wormhole of like getting obsessed with the gear and the technical stuff, and it takes away um I don't want to lose sight of the picture of that weird music.
Mm.
Songs.
Don't want
Songs.
the gear be the forest for the trees kind of thing.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
had a friend mix some stuff for me and was like running everything through his Unfairchild and then like $20,000 worth of like A to D, D to A converters. And I was like, yeah, it sounds amazing. It sounds amazing. Sounds better than what I bounced. Uh, cool. Like, would love to be obsessed with that. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the show kind of moment? Yeah.
Sure, sure, sure.
Amazing. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. Thank you, Suzy, so much for sharing your time and your insights. A huge round of virtual applause for Suzy. And yay! I know we're all there we go. I see some virtual applause happening. If you have any follow-up questions, those of you on the call today, please, our doors are always open here at We Are Moving the Needle. You can always reach out to us at info@wearemovingtheneedle.org. Please do keep your eyes out for some big news coming in the next week about some new scholarships and microgrants opportunities that will be opening up. And as always, have a wonderful Friday and happy International Women's Day tomorrow, everybody.
Ooh, happy International
Thank
Women's Day.
you.
Mhm.
Bye.
I'm rapping. Okay. Bye, guys. Thank you.